History will teach you that walking out on a company is never good news, especially in wrestling when politics are high. You'll at the very least burn a bridge, and who knows what else. It's a funny old business. The industry is so timed to emotion though, it happens a lot. Even to guys you would never expect, adrenaline and feelings take over, and that's it. You're out the door. I am Simon from What Culture though. Please do hit that subscribe button. This is 10 wrestlers who walked out on live TV.
Oh, you just caught me catching up on a bit of Manscaped news daily there, which reminds me, I want to talk to you guys about today's list sponsor, Manscaped.com, who we here at What Culture reached out to because, as you can imagine, over the past 12 months, we've not really been keeping as tidy as we should.
I could breathe this.
What? Where have they gone? Oh yeah.
Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene, selling only the highest possible quality products on the market. I know heck hair might have fallen off the radar at the moment. I mean, this mane hasn't even touched a barber's in like 6 months, but the great people at Manscaped hit me up with the Perfect Package 3.0, which changed my grooming routine entirely. The new Lawnmower 3.0 water-resistant body trimmer is the only trimmer on the market right now with the advanced skin-safe technology. This reduces nicks and cuts from common grooming accidents, and it's also cordless and waterproof, so you can get your business done in the shower. Look, it's even got a little light. The Perfect Package 3.0 also comes with the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. You know how everyone uses the insult, ugh, smells like balls? Well, if everyone used Manscaped, we'd have to change that to, smells like balls. You can get all of this plus refreshments on your favorite products and a replacement for your trimmer every 3 months when you sign up to their Peak Hygiene plan. Plus, for a limited time, you can get 2 free gifts. First, the Shed Travel Bag, and secondly, the Manscaped Anti-Chafe Boxer Briefs. So, go to manscaped.com where you can get 20% off and free international shipping and 2 free gifts when you use our promo code, which you can find on screen now and down in the description. Trust me, your body and your balls will thank you. But for now, back to that video.
Number 10, Mick Foley at the Survivor Series 1997. There's a good chance we will never move on from the Montreal Screwjob, and that's mostly because there's so many stories linked to outside just Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. It sent shockwaves throughout the wrestling world, but I get it. What hasn't been said? However, an often overlooked reaction was the effect it had on one Mick Foley, who has been more than happy to talk about this over the years. In short, he was so taken aback and horrified by what had happened to the Hitman, he decided he was done. Foley promised not to show up on Raw the next night, and he didn't. If Jim Ross hadn't have called him to talk him around, this could have been the end of Mankind's run. I think Hart also sent word to the locker room that this was his issue and no one else should die on that sword, but still, who would even want to go through that? I bet there were some awkward conversations after the fact. Number 9, Raven in August 1999 on Nitro. Classic World Championship Wrestling this. On a summer's day before its Monday night show, Eric Bischoff sat down with his entire roster and told them they all sucked. Awesome. It was spurned on by numerous incidents that had happened on TV, and to try and stop it, Bischoff said if anybody wanted to just get up and leave, they could go right now with no questions asked. Sure, you figured out who took him up on this offer. Eric wasn't kidding either. Raven wanted to go, so he was allowed and soon found himself back in ECW. He also had one more go around in WWE, but he never returned to WCW or popped his head in to make sure his flock was okay. In terms of the audience, one day Raven just vanished, although WCW got away with it because there were so many other things that made no sense happening. Most fans were just left in a bewildered state constantly. Number 8, Tyree Conti on the 15th of January 2020 NXT. After doing some digging, Fightful.com learned that Tyree Conti had walked out of NXT before a 15th of January TV taping. She was scheduled to work a Battle Royale but decided that going home would be better, so she went home. By April, she was officially released, and Fightful followed this up with an interview where Conti admitted she had done this because she felt the company had overlooked her in favor of new signees, and she did have a little bit of a point. She soon turned up on AEW, and all of this was fueled by the fact that her time in NXT had ruined her passion for wrestling, which is never nice to hear. Conti still wanted a chance somewhere, which she now has alongside Anna Jay, and maybe even the Dark Order. At the moment, you can't say this was a bad move. You're gonna have to watch this space. Number 7, Neville on the 9th of October 2017 Raw. Now look, Neville was given a shot in WWE. It just wasn't the shot he wanted or anybody else would have done, really. That's not a knock on anybody, but it is the truth. If you get put in WWE's Cruiserweight division, you know you're going to be treated as second fiddle, and Neville was. It didn't affect his work as he became the champion and a reason to tune into 205 Live, but this meant nothing because management didn't care. It hit an even bigger wall when he turned up for TV in October 2017 and was told he was going to lose at Enzo Amore. In this moment, Neville knew no matter what he did, it just wasn't going to matter. Instead, he decided to go home, which he did for ages as contract talks and other issues seemingly went on and on and on and on. There was a while there where no one really knew what was happening, and it was a full year before he finally got his release. Although saying that, given how well he's currently doing in AEW ever since, it's hard to say he didn't make the correct call here. Pac is back, and he could be better than ever. Number 6, Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie are in your house too. When discussing this incident on his Something to Wrestle With podcast, Bruce Pritchard said he felt like this was the Roadie almost committing career suicide. In 1995, he was not the Road Dogg Jesse James with some serious stock in the company. He was a guy finding his way and about to be pushed. Management does not look fondly on this. But yes, just as WWE was about to reveal that the Roadie was the real voice behind Jarrett's song With My Baby Tonight that would have resulted in a babyface run, he walked out alongside his pal. The rumor was neither guy was happy with the booking and decided to just leave without telling anyone. That doesn't sound smart. It was up to Pritchard to tell this to Vince McMahon, who was on commentary over a headset, and understandably the boss was furious. Why had these two stormed out of a pay-per-view, especially given that Jeff had already had a match with Shawn Michaels, which many said stole the show? Jarrett did lose the Intercontinental title, so maybe he was just really upset. Number 5, Jerry Lawler on the 27th of February 2001 SmackDown. So to be as honest as possible, no, this SmackDown wasn't light, but come on, if we split hairs over that, we will be here all day. Either way, Jerry Lawler still decided to walk out on the show and not do commentary, which created some worries backstage, as it would. As Jim Ross wrote in his excellent Under the Black Hat book, the King was not very happy with the news that his then wife Stacey the Cat Carter was being let go. It left Lawler in a hard place, but he stood with his partner and told Vince McMahon that if this was going to be the way, he would be leaving too. So he left. Both McMahon and JR tried to talk him out of it, but he was livid and felt like this was a slap in the face, which is what Jim Ross has admitted he actively tried to avoid. Within a few days, Paul Heyman had been appointed as his replacement. Everybody thought that Jerry Lawler would never ever come back to the WWE. They were wrong, and it was a mad, mad time. Number 4, Chris Benoit on the 17th of January 2000 Nitro. You could likely refit this for any and all of the Radicals, but we will focus on Chris Benoit as he had an extra kicker when he walked out the WCW door, and that's because he had just become the World Heavyweight Champion at Sold Out. Whoops. It was ridiculous too because Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko and Saturn had all told management how unhappy they were, and yet nobody flippin' listened. Instead, they assumed that if they made Benoit the champion, he would stay, and then 24 hours later he knocked on the door and said he was still leaving. Chris felt like he and his friends had been looked over one time too many, so now he was going to go and wrestle elsewhere. Nothing was going to change that, meaning during this Nitro, all 4 guys left. They'd all be on WWF TV by the end of the month, and while it didn't really work out for Malenko and Saturn, I think we can all say it was still the right move, especially for Benoit and Guerrero, who would go on to have the best moments of their damn careers. Number 3, CM Punk on the 27th of January 2014 Raw. What a story this was, and kinda still is. A day after the Royal Rumble, where CM Punk pulled the Iron Man spot, he told Vince McMahon and Triple H that he was done with this job, and they could stick it. It sent shockwaves through the wrestling world and reminded you that the character and the man were very close to one another, probably why he had so much success. It also kind of divided fans as he became a martyr for many, whereas others felt like this was always going to happen after Punk still seemed unhappy even though he had had a massive world championship run. CM wanted more though, which is kind of how you have to be in this life, and when he realized it was never going to come, he said goodbye and he was done. He wouldn't have anything to do with wrestling until he returned to WWE backstage under a Fox contract in November 2019, and even right now, there is someone out there going, when is CM Punk going to return? That is quite the legacy, and I'll be honest with you, I cannot see it, but man, I'd love to be proven wrong. Number 2, Steve Austin on the 10th of June 2002 Raw. Even Steve Austin has said after the fact this was a massive mistake and a huge regret in his career. He did, however, choose to walk out before the 10th of June 2002 Raw as frustrations finally boiled over and he couldn't take it anymore. Many have painted this as a huge surprise at the time, but it really wasn't. Stone Cold had been on WWE's Bite This show weeks prior saying all of this out loud. he thought creative sucked. It's why when he learned he was just going to lose to Brock Lesnar randomly on Raw in a King of the Ring qualifier, he decided enough was enough and it was time for a change. It felt like his character wasn't being treated as the top star should, and that Austin versus Lesnar should be held off and built for a pay-per-view. It wasn't exactly wrong. It led to a huge public burial starting with Vince McMahon, and while the two would make up, this was kind of the beginning of the end for the Rattlesnake. His last match after a huge absence was WrestleMania 19 in April 2003, and while he would take up an on-screen authority role, it always felt a little bit like lost time, even more so as Austin lived up to his in-ring retirement, and he hasn't stepped in the squared circle since. And if you are still waiting for this today, it is probably time to give up. Number 1, Shawn Michaels on the 9th of June 1997 Raw. In mid-1997, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were not friends. In fact, they hated each other a lot. This all came to a head on the 9th of June 1997 Raw when the two got into a massive fight backstage when the Hitman ripped out clumps of the Heartbreak Kid's hair. As Bruce Pritchard tells it, he was having a meeting with Vince McMahon when HBK busted in, said these were unsafe working conditions, and he was done. He left shouting that he would return when the boss could get a handle on Bret and stop these attacks, and it happened so fast nobody really knew what to do. Before they could even think Just Incredible was asked to ride Shawn back to his hotel, he was gone. Michaels would stay off TV until July, and as Bret Hart said in his autobiography, the catalyst to this had come from an episode of Raw when Shawn had decided to insinuate that Hart was having an affair with WWF diva Sunny, so he no doubt overstepped the line, hence why you would assume Bret decided to punch Michaels right in the face. It's amazing that these two ever made up, but hey, from a fan's point of view, it transferred across to their on-screen feud, and my word did it feel real. And as we know now, that's because it was. Know of any other wrestlers who just walked out on live TV? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then we got a website at whatculture.com, we got a Twitter feed at whatculture_WWE, and you can check out more videos right here on What Culture Wrestling, the YouTube channel. My name is Simon from What Culture, and if I wanted to, I could just slowly walk away from the microphone now and pretended that I walked off live TV, but YouTube is not live, and now I've made a fool out of myself. See ya.